Hello, and welcome to the PlantinApp's Low Code Campfire for Friday, December 6th, 2024. This is Patrick Anderson. I'm here standing in for Dale Warner today. And today we're going to talk a little bit about our new Passkey add-on and the execute razor script action and any other topics that you have to discuss. The Low Code Campfire is a community gathering of people who use PlantinApp, and we present it once every week on Friday at 10 a.m. Central Time. And we invite people of all skill levels to come and join us and ask for help, share ideas, bring something to show to the rest of the group. Any way you want to participate, we encourage the participation. All of these sessions are recorded, including this one is being recorded currently, and we post those to YouTube so that you can go back and reference the material we cover, and hopefully it will help you in using PlantinApp along the way. You can subscribe to our channel to see when those are posted, either by scanning the QR code you see in front of you, or just by going to youtube.com/PlantinApp. We have a pretty simple agenda. Today we'll go around and have some introductions, and then immediately go into first call and any other topics that we have. So please jump in, share things, answer questions. We really like to have the participation. You can submit questions and topics ahead of time by scanning this QR code. And with that, we'll go right into the introductions. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Patrick. Morning, Dennis.
Good morning, guys. How are both of y'all?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good.
Good, thank you.
Nice to have you here.
Yeah, nice to be back.
Cool. First call is always first. Either of you have something you wanted to bring to the meeting today?
I was just going to check for one thing. I know on the compatibility screen on the PlantinApp, it says that DNN 1.26 is still the latest version, and the top version that you recommend for DNN is 9.11.2. Is all of that still valid, or have
Yes.
y'all made any changes?
We are in our development of 1.27. We have been doing all of the QA for 1.27 on 9.13.3, and then we're getting ready to go into the alpha stage of 1.27, and our intention is to I believe, what's the most current one? Is it 13.5? I think.
13,
Anyway,
13.6. I'm
13.6.
running. Yeah, I'm running 13.6 on my dev server with PlantinApp 1.27 right now. I've been doing that for about
with 1.27 or 2.6.
I've got 1.26 PlantinApp, and I'm running DNN 9.13.6.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I think I heard you say 2.7. So, yes, because 2.7 is certainly not released yet.
I haven't seen it anyway.
Yeah. So yes, when we talk about the minimum compatibility, we're talking about what we have done QA with. It doesn't by any means mean that you can't possibly use a later version of DNN, but we're telling you what we've QA'd and what we'll support, because that's what we've done testing with. So that's what we mean when we say those minimum supported versions. It doesn't mean it won't work at all. It just means that we haven't tested it. That's really what we're indicating there. And so we only want to present to you, as maximum versions what we've actually tested. So that's the intention there.
Okay. All righty.
So that's why we are doing all of our QA and UAT for 1.27 on 9.13.3, and then going into the alpha stage. I believe that we decided that, and I'll need to clarify this, that we were going to test on the latest version. And I think that somebody told us there was an open issue with 9.13.6 that wasn't resolved. So I think we might be doing our testing on 9.13.5, but I'll make sure that I that when we get to release of 1.27, we'll update what exactly we're going to support. It'll probably be. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the only open issue was that the server info was incorrect. I'm not aware of any other issues
Okay.
in 9.13.6, but they just released release candidate 1 for that. That's supposed to have fixed that problem as well.
Okay. Yeah, and so if before we I can't say exactly, but we have to do a full round of QA on the final version that we say we're going to support when
Sure.
we get so that's
I understand.
so it may not be the absolute latest version when we actually release 1.27, but it will simply be once again, keep in mind that we're posting what we have done our testing on. That's when we put that minimum version there.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, it's a good question. Thank you for bringing it up. Anybody else? I see Matt, you've joined us, and Ben, you've joined us. Welcome.
Morning.
Morning.
Anybody else have a first call?
Yeah, I have a question or just a comment on some behavior that I've seen. So I have a workflow that essentially reads an entity into, essentially a token, and then creates a new element, a record in that table using those variables. And it consistently stops, doesn't fail, no messages. It just does not complete the process after a certain field. Going back and check the field, is it, correctly spec'd out, check for typos, hopefully all of the silly stuff. And it frankly doesn't work. So anyway, what I've ended up doing is using a SQL insert to create the record that I'm looking to create. But has anybody else seen that?
So you're using the automatically generated action to create a record, and that's.
Yeah, let me specifically. So I'm reading into a token, and I'm gonna struggle to. So read a record into a token, in this case a source.
And now, right. Mm-hmm.
And then next step is to create a new record, same table, change a few things, and move on. That was the goal anyway. But then somewhere down the line, it always ends up typically stops on a particular field, which is just a numeric field with a user ID value in there. So there's kind of nothing fancy to it, nothing crazy going on. And it just doesn't seem to want to work consistently. So, like I said, I sidestepped it. But I'm just curious, has anybody else seen that sort of behavior before?
So just to clarify, it's a workflow, and you.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And I am running. What am I running? 126.
Trying to get
it.
No, Matt, I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, we can try to see if we can recreate what you're talking about. So, so you're saying that you're using a
So you read an entity.
yep. But read one record, not the all, right?
Correct.
Let me
Yep.
scroll down and find something here. We will read. I'd like to use the ticket one, I think. Okay. And you pass in a record ID. I'm just going to hardcode one here, and then put that into an output token like that, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And then from there, you're doing some processing with what you're pulling out, or what's next?
Nope. Next step is to create a new record in the same table.
Oh, okay. So you're basically doing a kind of a clone sort of thing. That's the idea. Okay.
Yep. And making a few tweaks on the way, but yes, that's the idea.
Okay. And using that, so basically we're going to do, that's what you're saying, right? That just like this, right down the line.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things that I adjust, but they all work. It's the one, this one that I should just be reading as an element and writing as an element doesn't work.
Let's kind of paste these in here like this. And
While you're doing that, Patrick,
yeah.
I see there's a space between first name and last name, the name, but then you're removing that space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you create an entity, you're when you create the properties,
Yep.
you can leave spaces in there. In fact, we can encourage you to do so. But when the when the table and everything is created, it's actually it doesn't use that space. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's why I'm doing
That's
that.
what I thought. I was
This
just
is
making
the actual property. Yep.
Got it.
All right. So if this works the way we expect it, we should have an exact copy of ticket 2. So let me just go ahead and save that like that. Actually, let me put an output on this. New ticket.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident it's going to work.
Probably,
or else
yeah.
you would have tracked it down as a bug.
Yeah, but we'll see. Yeah.
Yep.
But it probably, I suspect it most likely has something to do with your processing. So, and so you're using the read action. I just wonder, is the value of the ticket something that you're putting? Is it an input property? Because I'm wondering if you considered using using as an entity, and in this case you don't have to do the read action. And I'm not saying that would make any difference in your case, but because it's really giving you the same thing. But just as a another way to approach it is you could take that value, pass in the ID of the record, and then everything is available to you now in the format of ticket. So the whatever you call that there,
Right.
colon and the property name. So those are all those are available to you in this way as well. But just you can, the read ticket does the same thing, so you can accomplish it that way. So actually, I'm going to not make this a ticket and go ahead and collapse this, and we'll make it an integer, and save and test that. test, what do I want to call this? Ticket. Does that sound? Save that. And actually, it's going to do 2 anyway because I didn't actually use my token. But anyway, so I got a new ticket, and
Yep.
let's.
By the way, mine, it works and it provides me the output token. It works. It doesn't fail. It just stops after a certain field.
Okay, let's see if I got everything. So ticket 2 is what it should have been. And actually, I'll just open up details of ticket 2 in a new tab. And then let's go find 68. And we'll open up the details of that in a new tab. And let's see what we got. So ticket 2 is test to set. Test@test.com 301-456-7896. And status is work in progress and ticket 2 description. And sure enough, it looks like we got all the data in place.
Yep.
So my guess would be that in your case, the situation probably has to do with the processing you're doing, and maybe it's some data is not correct, but I would think you would get an error. But we can take a look at it if you want.
What I'd rather do is, first of all, I just wanted to find out if somebody else has experienced this or not. Sounds like no. So what I can do, Patrick, is just put a support ticket in, and I'll put the database structure in there, the table structure, and the routine, and see if you can reproduce. Yeah, so yeah.
And does the processing you're doing in between, is it involve other actions, or is it you're tokenizing, you're using other tokens in here that do the processing on the data?
No, I'm doing exactly what you're doing there, with the exception that, for instance, some of the text fields are making some changes there, like prepending some standard text and then the token.
Okay.
Because what I'm doing is I'm
so something like last hyphen, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And that's all working fine. And the field that fails is not like directly after one of the ones that I've done, I've manipulated. It's always the same field. It's an integer field. And it's pretty odd, frankly. So clarification. The field before it, I left blank. It's not a required field. It's a date field that I left blank. It's not, in fact, not only not required, I don't want it in the duplicated record. That would be the only kind of
and you're
clue.
not getting any kind of date type error when you run it?
No, there's no that. For instance, if you had a date type field on here, all I'm doing in the duplication process is leaving that field blank. So I'm doing nothing with that copied field. I'm ignoring the original source data.
Okay.
And it's not required to, but again, there's no errors, no failures that it presents. And the next field is this project administrator ID field, which is the user ID for a particular administrator on this particular project. So it's straight numeric, and the administrator, it doesn't matter, but the administrator ID is valid and all that stuff. The numeric, it's a numeric type field, and so on and so forth. But when I do it using SQL straight up, works fine. So it's kind of weird. It's a weird one.
Yeah. And the date field is definitely not required at all.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Matt, are you saying that all the fields that are previous to that troublesome field are getting saved? The record's being saved?
Yeah, the record's fine. All of the, there's quite a few here, and all of them behave as expected. up until this particular field, which is a numeric field, and it's preceded by a date field, which is essentially empty. So now that may or may not have anything to do with it. It's just an observation.
I would have expected the whole ad to fail.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. But yeah, it's a
Right. I
it's
agree
an
with you.
an interesting case that definitely, yeah, I think it would be good for us to take a look at that and support, absolutely, because I
Yeah.
would think that that if there was a problem, you get an error and the record just wouldn't create.
Right. So yeah, what I'll do is I've got to do I'll pull it together and submit it as a support item, and I'll also actually send along the data element that I'm actually trying to copy in this case. So you can see for yourself, hopefully. Okay. Wasn't sure if that was a first call or a ghost story, so.
Oh, it doesn't matter either way. Anybody else have anything they want to bring on first call?
Yeah, Patrick, this is
Yeah.
Mark.
Sure.
I have a situation where I'm storing a date in an entity, and when I use a grid to report that date, it brings it up correctly. It's got the right date and right time. I'm also bringing it up in a form that pops up. If a person chooses edit on that grid, then it opens a form. The form is going to get that same data with a read record action, and it's coming back an hour later. Like the time has been incremented further by an hour.
Yeah. Is it by any chance possible that that this is that the date is so if it's happening right now, that the date you're manipulating is actually a date that would occur when daylight savings time is in place?
I don't
Is
even
that
know when that is.
so right now we're in standard time. Is it possible that the date you're looking at is either in after daylight savings time begins in 2025 or before it ended in 2024?
March 27th. Does that mean anything to you?
March 27th would be of 2025 would be after the current, after we leave standard time and we're then in daylight savings time, and that is the issue, and that's actually a known thing. And there's not a really great answer to the problem. Let's see.
It's interesting. I've been banging my head on that for quite some time.
Yeah.
So I used a read record action for that. Should I instead just use a SQL query? Will that make a difference?
I don't think so. Let me see if I can find. I think that I have.
Hey, Mark, can I ask a question? Because,
Sure.
sorry, I was somewhat semi-distracted. You're reading a record with a date time and displaying on the form, and then it's displaying incorrectly?
Yeah,
Is that what
an
you said?
hour off. Yeah.
What is the field type of your date time?
I thought you might be asking it. I'm going there now.
So here, I think I'll be able to reproduce this. What we're, so here in my grid, you're seeing that I have dates that are in August of 23, which daylight savings time was in place then. If I edit this, Yeah, see, they were at 10:16. Let me close this again just to say, because I need, yeah, so 10:16 a.m., 11 p.m., and 10:16 a.m. When I edit this, I'm getting 11:16 a.m., 11:16 a.m. This one, not sure what was my time there. 11 p.m. date time to 11 p.m. And when I look at it, it's coming in at 12 a.m. So it's adjusting everything by an hour because I'm currently in standard time, and the dates are saved in were saved in daylight savings time.
You mean the record was created during daylight savings time? Is that what you mean?
Right. I think that's, yeah.
Ben, it's a local date and time field.
Okay. I've dealt with to me, for the better part of, and I'm probably dating myself by saying this, 2 decades, I've always said date times are the bane of any programmer's existence.
They are.
Because every system out there handles it a different way. And that's not even talking about time zones. Once you get time zones in the mix, it becomes like that much more of a pain in the butt. But what I have done in the past to alleviate these issues, it's a bit of a hack, but it does seem to work for me, is especially when you are saving your dates as a local time. This is when you have that problem. If where your local time is has different time zones, like this day, or rather daylight savings time. So what I do is you take the daylight or whatever the date time is, convert that to UTC, and then convert it back to your local date time. When you do that, because you're converting to UTC and then converting back, it's going to take your appropriate daylight savings time into account if you need that. Now, if what you're saying is you don't need it, or you don't want it to be doing that, then well, either way, it's going to happen. What you're going to do is save the date time as UTC. That's usually what I do, because I find that even though it's a little bit of a pain in the butt when you're looking at the data through the tables, when you're working with the data later, it makes it easier. If what you're saving is UTC date time, because there is no daylight savings time on that value, and then you convert it to whatever time zone you require, then it takes whatever it needs to into account for you.
Okay, I hear you. So,
I just want to note here that these are being saved in UTC. This is the daytime local. So the problem that's happening here is actually on the display. So in the form itself actually, and so I just wanted to point out that we are, this is so I believe it was the value that was being saved was, this is the date field. So 1516, it was actually 1016 was the value that was shown on the listing for this one. And this, yeah. So this is the date time local value. That actually, this has the time zone information in it, but the regular date and time doesn't save the time zone information. It just saves it in UTC. And this was being, I think this said 11 a.m. So your preference is probably to use this, but the other thing that I wanted to point out is that when you look at the form itself, and this is another known issue that I want to point out. Pick the right one here. Let's take a look at this one here. There's this option here for is UTC. This actually, we have a something in our system already about this, but this actually doesn't do anything right now, and I wish it did. But this if this was working, it might actually help, but it's not. So whether you have this toggled on or off, this is not doesn't change the value that gets displayed. Let's just test that to make sure in case I'm.
Yeah, I tried that too.
You
to
did,
no
yeah,
effect.
yeah, right. It still does the same thing. Yep. So having said that, there is some there's some data manipulation that you can do that will correct that. And if I could find it, probably could have found it. I don't think I want to take time right now trying to find it, but there is some things you can do to make sure this is consistent and doesn't have that problem. But I need to look it up. And but what Ben was just saying is definitely a direction to go. But also I can probably find in what we've done in some situations to deal with this better and send it to you.
Okay, I'm interested in that, Patrick. And
Okay.
Ben, what data type would that be to store it as UTC?
I always use just date time.
Yeah.
And I leave it at that. It's just when I save it, I make sure that I convert the value from my local to UTC and then store it as the UTC in the date time field. So I know those dates are all UTC based. And then when I read them, I reconvert them and make sure that I convert them to local date time.
So just to clarify that, so I guess depending on where the save is, I suppose, but the date time field type, when you save into that, it should be saving a UTC time. It takes, so if you're displaying to the user their local time, when it gets saved, it should be saving it as UTC in the date time field.
It will only
Without
save
conversion.
it'll save it as what you tell it to save. The system will not. Datetime is datetime, so it's just putting in a date and a time. It doesn't care what it is. It doesn't store the time zone information to it. So if you tell it it's today at 11 p.m., it's today at 11 p.m. is what it stores into the table as a date time. Now, what locale that is, that's up to you to understand and manage. So if you're putting something in as a UTC of 11 p.m., you have to know that when you pull it out, you then need to convert it to your local. If you're saving it as local and pulling it out as local, then it doesn't matter. But once you start dealing with time shifts, that's where it could potentially bite you when you're pulling things back out.
Ben, when you say time shifts, are you referring to
Daylight savings?
Daylight savings, okay, not time.
Not time zones, but that just adds a whole nother complexity to it. But
right,
it's honestly it's the time, the daylight savings time. That's really what totally messes up things that get saved into a database. So, for example, let's just say, for argument's sake, you turn around and say, I want to, how do I put this? I'm trying to think of a situation where it happened to me. It was something along the lines of, I told the system I want to run something at like 11 a.m. And it was during one of them. And then, either daylight savings or standard. And then once the time shift happened for daylight savings, it shifted my execution time by an hour. because it didn't take into account that difference. However, it wound up saving it and pulling it back out. So the only way that I ended up getting around that was every time I saved my date, just to be 100% sure that I'm not getting any of that weirdness happening, I convert the date to UTC, store that, and then when I pull it out, I convert it back to local time from UTC.
So I mean, it really depends on the, but I just want to, I'll, if this doesn't turn out the way I think it is, I'll definitely, I'll accept that totally. But so this form hasn't had anything done to it, but I just want to make sure we're looking at this, that, the times I'm saving here are 1 p.m. today, and this one is 11:35 a.m. today. So I'm going to add this and now go back to that, which should be record 26. So let's go back over here and change this to 26 and just take a look at what actually is being saved in the database. So so we're getting for date time 2, notice that I'm getting 12/6 1800 hours, and date time local 12/6. No, so the date time local is actually, so with that field type, it is saving the time that I put in exactly, but then also the time zone offset for my current time. But with the regular date time, it is saving the well, that's just a regular date, so that doesn't count. But this one right here is a regular date and time, and that is doing the offset for me.
So Patrick, how is the created date stored?
This
If I
is
remember correctly, those are
daytime
daytime
local.
offsets.
Yeah.
Offsets.
So that is correct. But it's storing, storing it. So this should be.
It stores it as UTC.
Yeah,
but
right.
But it is a date time offset field type.
Yeah, it is. That's correct.
That's the created and the last modified. Those are the default fields that all of your entities have. That's what PlantinApp uses.
Yep.
So for all intents and purposes, I mean, that kind of also proves the point that when you're storing the dates to make life easier, you store it as UTC. Because then when you pull it back out, you convert it as needed to the correct time zone and whatnot. Because once you start storing local time, the problem is if you have a shift in time of an hour due to daylight savings, you could potentially be pulling out the wrong time. It shifts it by an hour.
Yep.
Okay. So now I need to consider changing my data type because it's now being stored as local date and time. That's not going to be an insignificant change. Okay. There's a lot of data in there already. But at least I have an explanation.
You could always create a script that will go and, like, for example, if you add a new field, well, my suggestion would be rename your existing field. Like, for example, if it's called datetime, call it datetime old. Create a new field called datetime with the correct field type that you want, and then run a script that will convert all of your datetime olds to UTC and store them in datetime, and then just delete datetime old as the field. And then you wouldn't have to actually modify any of your code because the field name stays the same. The only thing you're going to need to do is in 2 spots. At the moment of save, you need to convert whatever date is being submitted to UTC and then save. And at the moment of read, you have to convert whatever value you get from UTC to local date time and display.
Gotcha. Will I have any trouble converting to UTC? Like, will it be an hour off at times after the
No,
conversion?
that's what
UTC doesn't have
right. They
yeah,
don't
it
have a
doesn't have
shift.
daylight savings time. It's
So
yeah,
that's the reason
it's a
why you
constant.
use it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter once you convert from whatever UTC is to the local, time zone, it will take daylight savings times into
Into
account
account.
and
Yep.
display the correct time for that moment.
Okay, I mean, this script is going to go through my table and update all the times to UTC. Is that going to wander by an hour?
No,
Under
because it's the
certain,
same thing back and forth. Whatever the time is, the date time, it will take into account whatever the time zone is and convert it to its appropriate value as
Okay.
UTC.
Okay. Okay, very good. And then I need to know where my users are as far as their time zones go, so that I can convert it appropriately when they're looking at it. When I'm
There's a
displaying it on a form, whatever.
Well, it depends. I mean, if you have user accounts like in the DNN system for each
Mhm.
person and you're not doing your own user tracking, the profiles have a time zone, a preferred time zone. As long as they fill that out, you can then pull that out from the person's profile. It'll be colon user, square bracket user colon, and I think it's preferred time zone
I think
and
that's right.
close
Yeah.
bracket. And that will pull out the actual time zone of that user. And then you can use that with another token for the date time and offer that preferred time zone as the offset. And then
Right.
it will convert that date for you to their time zone from UTC.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for covering that for me.
Yeah. Date and time is always a little scary.
To say the least.
Yeah, I'm feeling it.
Anybody else have anything
Yeah,
that's not date and time related? No, I'm just kidding.
I've got a question, but it's not going to be for an hour from now. Just kidding. So in general, when you're working with a grid, is it, this very general question, is it faster, more advisable, or other to use a token for a field as opposed to doing a join on, doing a join and so on and so forth? I've got a bunch of instances where I've got to go out and do a bunch of joins to display things the way I want them to, picking up, of course, from different tables. The high level general question, is it better, faster, more efficient to do the join or just create specialized tokens that go do this and I just drop the token name in?
I think in general, you're if it's easy enough for you to do it, I would join to the other tables to get the data, because when you use a token, you have a little bit of additional processing that's happening for every single row. That's my thoughts. Anybody else? I'm looking at Ben's tile on the
Well,
but
for what it's worth,
that's my thoughts.
I would have
If you
said the exact same thing.
yeah
Yeah,
if it
agreed. Because
yeah
like Patrick said, if you use a token, then you're involving the IIS server to do its own
Yeah.
processing and then send out a SQL command to
Mhm.
pull the data. Whereas
Yep.
if you just send one SQL command, you put all the processing on the SQL server, let it do the management of the joins and the indexes that you have, so that it appropriately does as much as it possibly can, as quick as it can, and then returns the data that you want.
there have
That
been
was my,
times.
sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah.
No, that was my assumption, my thought,
Mhm.
but I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Thank you.
And there's been times when I have used a token just because getting the data that I need is presented a really significant challenge. And it was really easy for me to do with the token, and I knew I wasn't going to be dealing with a ton of records, so I used a token. So you kind of have to look at the scenario that you're dealing with and make that decision. But sometimes a token's a good idea.
Thank you so much.
But definitely the processing is gonna there's gonna be a little bit extra processing there. Mark, you're unmuted. Did you have something to add to that, or?
No, I'm sorry. I agree.
Okay, cool. All right, this is great. Anybody else? We're having a. All right. Well, I'll move on to the next topic I had. I don't know. I think Matt, maybe you were there. Not many. I don't think many people from the call today were on the Low Code Cafe this week, but I
Yes,
didn't
I was, and I felt terrible watching you struggle. That's tough, man.
Well, I thought I wanted to share what the solution to that was, because it was really simple, and I had definitely seen it during my setup, but it didn't come back to my mind when I was doing the presentation. But in and I did what Dale had to do in the past at points, and I switched over to my setup site that I had, that I was using to, and you saw that it all worked, but for those of you who weren't on the call, and if you didn't know already, we have created a new add-on for PlantinNet called Passkey Authentication, and it really allows you to do a pretty easy setup for using Passkey Authentication. And if anybody's looked into it very much, you know that it is a very complex thing to enable, and so I think this add-on is particularly exciting. Let's see, I want to go back over here. Did I get a chance? I didn't bring those sites up, but let me do that. It should be in my history here. I want to go back to this one here. So is anybody not familiar with Passkey authentication? What I'm talking about when I say that?
Yeah, that would be me, Patrick.
Okay. So I'm certain that you've used Passkey authentication, and maybe didn't even realize that's what you were using. But if you use an app on your phone that prompts you to sign into the app by using the biometrics for your phone, like facial recognition in iOS, or even like in Android, where sometimes you have a number pattern that you use to log into your phone. If you have an app that prompts you to use that, to use your native system's way of authenticating, you're actually using a passkey when you do that. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here in just a second. So I didn't actually I never got to adding my login with passkey button here. Let me go into here and open up the one where I actually have it all set up. So here I have a login with passkey button. If I click that, it's prompting me from in this particular case, I have a password manager enabled in this browser. So I'm getting prompted from my password manager to choose the passkey I want to sign in with. And I think I'll choose, I actually don't know which of these is valid, but hopefully this one is. And yes, it was valid. Okay, good. So if I did that from a browser that does not have my password manager, it would prompt me for Windows security. So let me do that. I'm going to switch to one where I don't have my password manager enabled, and just get that URL there. Let's go to the, and if I click login with passkey here, I'm being prompted by Windows security for me to log in. And let's see, I will choose, yes, that one there. Next. And now I'm being prompted. I happen to have a fingerprint scanner on my system, so it's now using my fingerprint scanner. The passkey was not found in the database. So I've done lots of testing here. So the passkey I just selected, I deleted from my account. Let's see if there's another one there that I can use. They probably all are deleted. Let me try this one and see if it works. Yep, they have all been deleted. But anyway, that's the idea. So I'm going to go back to the other browser here. And during the session that we had the other day, I was the process that I set up was that you have this create passkey button that you see after you log in. As an administrator, I'm seeing the whole login page, but I wouldn't as a non-administrator. And I was having trouble getting that to show up the way I wanted it to. And the actually, I want to go back to where I was, edit this page, and this is mostly for Matt since he saw the struggle I was having. But after the call, I went back and reviewed everything, and the only thing that I was missing, actually, it was on the login form, was the issue. On the login button, when I did this redirect right here, this property right here is checked by default when you add a redirect to portal page action, and it was causing the conditions on the form that was on the passkey form. It was causing those conditions to not evaluate correctly, so I was never actually staying on the page. Once I unchecked to use the URL provider to form the query string so that I get the actual query string parameters instead of a path, it worked fine. So Matt, that's all I had to do was uncheck that box there. And I was just missing it.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
I'm glad you figured it out, man.
Yeah. So then if I'm going to go back to this profile here, and actually I'm going to go to one where I have my password manager. Switch to this one here. And
while Patrick's launching this, I'd just like to put in a plug. It was this feature, this passkey feature is terrific, because if you think about security and where things are, where things are going, tying deeper into the system level is a good thing. So this was that's why I was so interested, and it was great.
Thank you for that.
No problem.
So I want you to log in with this one right here. Huh, do I have no password saver that? Oh, that's a passkey. Yeah, there we go. Log in. Okay, so this is what I was wanting to happen when we were doing our demonstration, was I wanted to actually see the create passkey button. So I'm going to go ahead and for those of you, once again, not familiar with passkeys, they do require that initially, in order for somebody to create a passkey, they have to log in with a standard authentication process and then either get prompted to create a passkey or navigate somewhere on the site to create one. But you could have two-factor authentication in place for security level, but in order for a user to not have to deal with two-factor authentication all the time, if they create a passkey, it creates a very very secure and also very easy way for the user to log in. So so that's what's happening here. I've already logged in with my username and password, but now I'm going to create a passkey, and I'm going to do a new one and click save. And then So now it's telling me I created a passkey successfully, and that I can use that in the future. So if I click continue, and now sign out, I don't. I didn't add the login with passkey button yet, but so that's the essential thing that I didn't put on the login form because I didn't get that far in the presentation, and this was the site. But anyway, once I have the login with passkey, I can click login with passkey, and then all I have to do is just choose my passkey from the provider. But I actually want to go back to this browser here, and I need to, wish I had saved it here. I didn't though. So let me just real quick bring up my,
Okay, so your passkey can be your fingerprint. It can be a swiped number pad pattern. What else can
yeah.
it be?
Yeah, whatever your the device supports, really.
Yeah, like your face.
Yep.
Okay.
And right, exactly. So with iOS, with facial recognition, that sort of thing. And actually, I just realized I need to make a change here for this to do what I wanted to do. So I need to go back over here and go to my passkey form and go to my create passkey button and create passkey action. And I'm going to change the authenticator attachment option. So this basically says that this site has a preference for platform specific authenticators. I'm going to tell it that I'm going to change my preference to cross-platform authenticators and save this. And I believe that's going to let me use Matt, you remember I was trying to use the QR code the other day, and that was not working out for me. Actually, I want to do it on the setup site, because that's where I have my the correct the passkey button, the log in with passkey button. So I'm going to go into manage form here, and then go to the passkey button and change my authenticator attachment to cross-platform and save that. And now go back to here, reload this, and I'm going to first log in with I'm just looking up my okay. So if I go to manage passkeys here, I'm going to delete the existing passkey so that I can get my screen, then sign out. Log in, and now it's asking me to create a passkey. I'm going to click create passkey, and then I'm going to choose this iPhone, iPad, or Android device option here and click next. And now I'm going to open up my phone. And scan this QR code. So if you guys can see me, I'm actually scanning the QR code with my phone. I think this is kind of a cool possibility here. And so now it's asking me, do I want to create a passkey for that email address? I'm saying continue. It's scanning my face right now. It created the passkey, and I'm going to save it. And now automatically, so I did all that on my phone, and now I'm being updated here that's saying passkey has been saved. I say okay. And now it tells me that I can log in with passkey. So now I'm going to sign out again and then say log in with passkey. And I'm going to go ahead and choose use another device and choose iPhone or iPad, click next, scan that QR code, choose the right one. I have several here to choose from, so I'm going to make sure I choose the right one. Continue. Well, I guess I didn't choose the right one. Let me try that again.
Of course, Patrick. Of course,
Yeah,
it just happens.
I should have
way it
cleaned
is.
I should have cleaned everything up. So I'd so click next, and that QR code again. Want this one here. Let's see if that works. There we go. So the demonstration probably was not ideal because I had so many passkeys from all the testing I've been doing on my system. But what I just did was log into the site with my phone, just by scanning a QR code, which I think is kind of cool. It provides a lot of possibilities for users.
And your phone scanned your face just now, right?
Yeah, my phone scanned my
Okay.
face to confirm it was actually me logging in. Yep, exactly.
So
Like,
when I have, for example, I have a laptop that has facial recognition. How do you integrate to get to the level, or is it even possible at this point to get to the level where your face is then, let's say I'm logging in on that laptop to that site and I've gone through the process and so on. Is it to the point where it's tight enough so that simply the website can essentially scan my face using this same sort of capability and then log me in?
So that's the cool thing about Passkey authentication is it's not the website. The website is integrating with the Passkey authentication protocol, I guess is the for lack of a better term. Let me just go over here and show you in the create passkey action. This is all like, so this gives you some overview, and I have another document that that I've made that maybe makes this a bit more simplified, but this is all based on, open this in a new tab over here. It's all based on a W3C documentation. And this is something that has been being developed for a long time, and most devices will support this now. So the questions that I have about that, so you have a laptop that has facial recognition.
Yep.
Two questions about that. The facial recognition, does it integrate with, is it a Windows laptop, and does that integrate with Windows Hello?
Yes, it is a Windows laptop. And yes, I believe this whole thing is based on Windows Hello.
Yep. So if you can log into your laptop with Windows Hello using facial recognition, then this would work on your website.
Okay,
that's the thing. It's using your device's authentication methods to and basically what happens is a private token is being stored locally on the device, and a public token is being stored on the website's server. And like API calls that you're familiar with already, sometimes you have this public and private token that need to agree with each other, and that's what's happening. That handshake, when you do the login process, your device is confirming your identity, and then those tokens are being exchanged, and there's a handshake between them to confirm that, okay, this is the person, and now I'm doing to make sure that the public token exists on the server. This person is allowed to log in. That's so there's that handshake going on there, but your device is actually confirming that it's you.
So I assume the same thing would hold true with a phone device with facial recognition as well.
Yeah, that's what I just did a minute ago. I logged into the site using the facial recognition on my phone.
Right, but I'm referring to actually, I'm on the phone and I want to get to the mobile version of that site.
Yeah, I could do the same thing. I could log into the site that way as well.
In that case, you wouldn't have to scan a QR code, I would assume.
No, no, absolutely not. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I got so excited talking about this, I didn't realize we had gone over our time. But we certainly, we're going to have the afterglow session, so we can keep on rolling if you guys want to. But I had a few other things in there that we didn't get to. But anyway, let's wrap up this edition of the Low Code Campfire. Thank you all for joining us. And if you have time and can stick around for the afterglow. And until next time, happy low coding.